ready for the last talk of the Ansible track 1? Are you?
Yes.
Okay, good. So, we like technical people, we like new and the best and the latest. But with the latest, it comes with a lot of breakage. So now, Ansible 2.19 Core has given us something, some great features, but it also means there's a lot of changes and breaking in our system. So Matt, who is NITS for us, he's going to showcase that how to use Ansible 2.19 better. So welcome, Matt.
And just so, since we are at the last session, just a poll amongst those in the room. This is a 40-minute talk that I did back in October at the virtual meetup. So if you saw that, sorry, it's a retread. We have a 25-minute session here. So do you want me to cut it short, or do you want me to talk fast and try to cram it all in, or preferences? Let it run long. Anybody? Okay. I'll try to keep it as as close to time as I can. I'll dispense with the who I am, nitzmahone, architect on Ansible Core, 11 years, blah blah blah. 2.19's been what I've been spending the last what I spent the last kind of 2+ years of my life doing most days, was getting all that stuff going. So just some milestones that came out of the 2.19 project, and specifically those that were paying attention to this was the big data tagging PR that did all this stuff. It was, I believe, the biggest pull request ever in Ansible's history, the biggest changelog fragment ever in Ansible history, the biggest porting guide entry ever in Ansible history, and the longest delayed feature ever in Ansible history.
Yes.
These are all good things, I promise. So I've got some love letters here. Where this is, if from the imaginary perspective of someone who is, trying to advise someone about their problems here. So, dear Ansible, I love our time together, automating all the things. You make it pretty easy to sit down, get things done quickly, and you usually do just what I mean. We all make mistakes, though, and your response to my mistakes often doesn't feel very healthy. Sometimes it's really frustrating when you can't clearly communicate where or why something went wrong and what I should do to fix it. Just talk to me. Love looking for errors in all the wrong places. So let's take a look at a somewhat typical error situation here. So, all right. This is we've got a template here. Oh, boy, that really is small up there. It looks a lot bigger down here. Hold on. Yeah, this is unfortunately this room. We don't have the best. Let's try. That's as big as I can make. So we don't have the TVs in the back like the other room. So that's about as good as I can do. We can shut the lights off if that. A little bit better. Better? Yeah. Okay. So we've got a very simple playbook here that's referencing some variable, and then in our inventory we have we've got some vars files here that we've got some variable that points to oops recursive, and oops recursive points at some variable. This kind of thing happens sometimes. It's okay. So let's go to Ansible Core 2.18 and run that playbook and see what happens. Okay, scrolling. Wow, it's the same error over and over and over and over again. It told us a little bit of stuff, like it said, hey, error templating oops recursive, error templating some variable. Okay, so we have some useful information here, but not fantastic, okay? And again, at the very bottom here, we got the maximum recursion depth exceeded, and okay, well, that's, okay, that's a thing. So, one of the big features that we spent a lot of time on 2.19 is doing kind of data tagging provenance. So pretty much every string that comes into Ansible now in 2.19 has the ability to be tagged. Where did it come from? Was it generated by a module? Was it generated from an inventory? Did it come from this file, that file, where, file locations, everything? It's not hooked up everywhere yet, but pretty much anything like normal, and a whole lot more places than in 2.18. And it's a much better about hanging on to that stuff and being right about it. We also standardized a ton of error handlers. We removed literally hundreds of bespoke error handlers that were just splattered all over the Ansible Core code base in favor of a handful of standardized way of kind of producing errors and generating things. So let's see what this looks like now in 2.19. And actually, sorry, this is going to be in 2.21. I'm running this stuff in 2.21, but we haven't changed any of this stuff. So, okay, this looks a little more sane. So we look at this here. We've got error while resolving value for data. We actually show you in line the line numbers, and this very looks Pythonic for those of you that are used to Python error messages. This looks kind of similar. We tell you what file, line number, column number. We'll actually show it to you here. We'll point right at it with the column. And then if there's multiple things in here, ultimately this problem was caused by a recursive loop in this thing. Notice I'm pointing at the vars file here where the actual original recursive thing is. The other thing that we changed here is for those people in the actual response of the result of this module. If you looked at the 2.18 one, the result of the module itself, so if you were sending this to a callback or to AAP or to some other thing, you have this gigantic response of just basically worthless junk. We've tightened this up a whole lot, so we try to give you just enough information, but we're not giving you all the line numbers, we're not giving you all that stuff in the results. Those things are still just there on the display. Somewhat controversial, but I think in general, I would say that this looks a whole lot better to me and a lot more actionable.
Maybe a quick question.
Yeah.
Will it work if the variable is not used just in var file, so not in the playbook or in the role?
Yeah, that one was from the one in the var file. It was pointing at that.
But it was used in the playbook. Right? So if it's not used in the playbook, it will still detect the loop, right?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
It should. Yeah.
If you don't use it.
If you don't use it, no. The detection was because the templating, this isn't detecting but this was just still a runtime error.
Okay.
So the next one, dear Ansible, I know the only constant is change, but you're not always the best about telling me when I'm doing things I need to change, especially when I'm using return values and magic variables that have been deprecated. Always changes. So one of the really big features of 2.19 that has been a very, very, very long time in coming, warning on use is now possible. So we can track and intercept all of the touches when a template reaches out and touches a return value from a module or a magic variable that's gone away or something like that. We can actually intercept all of those touches and say, you're using something that's deprecated. We've had deprecation on return values forever, right? But we couldn't ever actually tell you when you were using them. So showing a deprecation warning is not what didn't make any sense. But now, if your automation is using something that was returned from a module or a magic variable or something else that's been deprecated, we can actually tell you that now. We could again point you right to it. So with that standardized contextual error handling. So let's see what that looks like. So I'm not going to show you the old version of this one. We'll just the current one. So deprecated. So on this one, you can see the playhost magic variable has been deprecated. Okay, well, if I actually look at the content that we used to generate this one. Okay, so there's a magic variable that's injected called playhosts, and it's been deprecated for a while. So if you use that variable, you're going to see a message like this that, again, we pointed you right at the place that you did it. And one of the other things that these standard error messages have is a piece called help text. So you can see here, if there's some alternative or something else that you should be using, like when someone is generating these error messages, they can give context, help text, and a few of these other places. So this one says, hey, you should be using Ansible Play Batch instead. Okay. So for our next one, dear Ansible, truth is an important foundation of our relationship. You sometimes have strange notions of truth that make it hard to trust your choices. Truly, we're totally in faith. So now we get to the most controversial part of 219, which is what Alicia was kind of alluding to. Broken conditionals. So people, these are conditionals in Ansible, right? So, when, until, changed when, failed when, assert that. Like, there's a handful of these places where we have conditionals. We have, for most of Ansible's history, have taken kind of the same stance that Python and most other things do about truthy conditionals. So it's just like, hey, if it's a non-zero value, a non-none value, it's true. We don't care. These things are really sneaky and really dangerous. And when we started working on some of these things and trying to detect some other problems, we realized even in our own Ansible's own integration test suite, we had like dozens of cases where there were truthy conditionals that were gating things or that were evaluating things. It's like, this integration test has not been testing what we thought it was. It's never worked in 10 years. There's a bunch of stuff like that we just kept coming on. Between this and some of the other changes that happened with the way the Jinja integration is tied in Ansible 219, that it's using the Jinja native mode all the time now, we decided, like, you know what? We can't just make this a warning. Like, we really need to make this an error, because all it takes is someone doing, gating something behind a conditional that behaves slightly differently because of between the native thing and the truthy stuff. It's possible that we could run some really destructive operation that was gated behind a when that we didn't want to take the risk. So we just said, just don't do it. So yeah, we just let those things slide before, but so let me show you so all of these examples that I'm about to show you are things that actually they're basically based on things that we found in our own test suites. So, broken conditionals. All right. So, the first one here, this is the one that people are that people are probably the most upset about with this. This first task says common shortcut thing to do, and thing to do is just a string, okay? Where people will just say, when thing to do. So if thing to do has some value, like it was in the past, it was truthy. This is the legitimate case for this. And I know, we probably all have things like this in our playbooks. This is the one that everybody, everybody that's got one of these, that needs to be now like, thing to do is defined, or thing to do is not none, or you need to be a little more specific so that to not trigger this check. Some of these other ones, though, can you spot the bug in this one?
It's always true.
Yeah, and why is it always true?
Because the command returns maybe 0 or 1, but both is a value, so it's always true.
Because the second is sweet.
Yeah, actually it's sneakier than that.
Do direct with just a string, and a string. This is a string.
See how? Yep. See the quotes here? Yeah. When you and quotes onto something, it's going to change the entire thing into a string. So the result of this thing is always going to be a non-empty string. So again, this real example, like we had multiple cases of this where we had a quoted expression in there, and then someone went and changed something later and added it or merged it or something, and we had it exactly like this. And yeah, it's like, oh, that test isn't doing, that thing's not doing what you think it does. So there's a bunch of these though. This is one of the really awful ones. You can see, you can sort of see some of the. Notice the highlighting looks funny on that one.
Semicolon and thinks it's a dict.
Yep. Yeah, there's a colon space in the middle of that thing. So this thing looks like a YAML dictionary. YAML thinks this is a dictionary whose key is result.standardout equals quote success. And then the value is yes.
Yes.
Yep. Again, probably at least 5 instances of this in our own integration tests where just someone was a little careless or saw, oh, I'm trying to make something look pretty and stick a colon in the middle of a message. Ah. Okay, so we can detect this now. This one's also super sneaky. Do you see what's going on with this last one? Yeah, what does it become?
Tuples.
It becomes a tuple. So, yeah, it becomes a tuple with a value. Is a tuple with a value ever going to be false? No. So, yeah, let's run that. So 218. This is broken conditionals. So, all assertions passed. Yeah, 1 double equals 2. All assertions passed. Yep, looks good. Now, you're going to see, because I'm running this on the very latest version of 218, you're going to see something else here that this wasn't here when I demoed this back in October. The deprecation warning that you have hit a broken conditional just released. We backported those to 216 and 218 just this last week. So those just released. If you update if you're using 216 or 218, you update those, you're going to start seeing these deprecation warnings. These are actually controlled by the exact same. We have a config setting that will allow you to turn this into an error if you want. In 219 and 220, you can go the other way. You can turn it into a warning temporarily if you want. But on these, we don't, obviously, on existing old versions of Ansible, we didn't want to turn these into errors right away. But if you want to turn them into an error so that you can detect these things much, if nobody's paying attention to warnings, you can turn them into an error if you want. So if we run this stuff now, of course, here, we'll talk a little bit more about that. Okay. So yes, it's an error by default. I kind of explained why. The nice thing about this is, like, anytime you have one of these things, almost always there's a really trivial tweak that you can make to the conditional that will work in every version of Ansible. Like, it's probably the way it should have been written in the first place. So it's not like you have to worry about, like, oh, I can't fix this in a way that will work in old and new versions of Ansible. It's almost always like a really trivial change. When we first rolled this stuff out in 219, we were getting a lot of complaints from people like, oh, you Core, what's up with this? This sucks. And then we were hearing back, we were hearing back the same kinds of things that it was like, oh, actually, yeah, it was a bug, and it was, sorry, yeah, it was catching a bug that's been there all along and nobody knew. But yeah, as I've said, this one is the most common upgrade trip hazard. And so, as I mentioned, there's Ansible allow broken conditionals config, so you can set it from environment config, config whatever you want. But there is that allow broken conditionals config that will allow you to turn that on. And again, if you set that to off in 218 and 216, you can make it an error. So I'm going to skip showing you that it doesn't, it works properly in 219. Trust me. Dear Ansible, I love the power and flexibility you provide with Jinja expressions, but sometimes I think you're trying too hard to look for things in my results that just aren't there. Can you please just leave my data alone? Sincerely, nothing between the lines. Okay, so this is an interesting one. Jinja Classic, which is basically the mode that Jinja has run in for most of Ansible's life, and even when Jinja native support was added all the way back in like 10 or I don't remember when that came in, but we've had this Jinja native mode that's kind of just been out there, but it didn't get a lot of use because it still had some bugs. There were things that we were hoping to make it the default a long time ago, and just nobody ever we didn't figure out what the problems were, and so it just kind of languished out there, didn't get tested great. But ultimately, Jinja was a text templating language, right? It was designed for making web pages. It was a Flask thing originally, and just kind of got bolted into a lot of other things. So Ansible did some really kind of scary things to support complex data structures in Jinja. And some of those things can cause accidental type conversions if the text that you coughed up looked enough like a wrapper of a Python data structure. So pre-219 Ansible, it uses a Python literal eval on all of the Jinja results that come back. So trashes data, turns strings into not strings sometimes. So yeah, if it looks like an int, it's going to come out and it's going to be like, hey, why did this thing come out as an int? But it works for all the data structures. So some people abuse those things. But let me just show you some fun ones here. So, all right. So notice so we have a couple of vars here. We've got a dictionary called myconfig, and there's an int value that just has a plain old 1 in it. And then I have this one called list-like string that has something that looks like a list, but it's in quotes, okay? And then templated int value goes and templates against that myconfig int value, references it, and then the list-like string does the same thing for this list-like string, okay? And so we debug that stuff and we look at it. And so I have some of these. I have these Jinja tests here that says, they're basically sort of. They're not asserts, but they're basically like, is the thing an integer? So and let's see what happens. So 218. So when I dump the dictionary, note that list-like string is correctly quoted, and our int value is 1. So when we access the thing directly, it's fine. Okay. myconfig.int value. If we ask if int value is an integer, it's true. That's fine in 218. If it gets indirected through a template, though, that one that we had templated int value, type debug, it's a string. That's not good. And then we have the same problem with that list-like string. When I say list-like string is true when I directly access it, yep, it is. When I do templated list-like string and we've run it through another templating operation, when it comes out the other end, it's like, oh, hey, that looks like a list. It's a list of ints, right? No. So I hit this so many times, and it's so kind of random, right? You get one little thing changes about your output, and all of a sudden it's like, hey, why did that thing turn into a dictionary? Just so maddening, and especially if you don't know what's going on under the covers, it's like, what? So, yeah. So there's some of these unsupported hacks that people were relying on where they are actually sort of relying on this behavior. They don't always work. But anyway, we fixed a bunch of these things. We switched everything to Jinja native, so like none of this stuff happens anymore. Jinja native is the only option. That is a good thing, but there could be out at the borders some maybe weird changes. We got rid of all that literal eval stuff. Like if you'd seen how much time and like CPU time it wastes doing all that in Ansible pre-219, your head might explode. And then we also get rid of all this accidental conversion noise. So if we run, I guess you can take my word for that one too. Like it works the right way in 219, I promise. So to kind of wrap up here, this is Ansible's letter back to all of you. Dear user, I hope I've proven to you that even old tools can learn new tricks. I know things haven't been perfect for us, but we can get a lot of things done together. I promise to try harder to communicate everything I know when something goes wrong. I may not be able to fix it for you, but I can make it easier for you to find and fix. I know module returns and other things need to evolve, and I promise to give you plenty of heads up when I know you're using something that needs to change. I'm not just going to silently sweep broken conditionals under the rug anymore, but you also need to be clear about what you want. I promise I'll tell you when you're not being clear. I'm going to stop trying to overinterpret your data, so you'll need to be explicit about what you want there. I hope you can see how I'm trying to change for the better, and I can't wait for our next chance to make beautiful automation together. Love, Ansible. Thanks, everyone. Any questions about this stuff, or like? Yeah,
I have a completely different question.
Okay.
So, lots of the work you did basically exposed new warnings, deprecation warnings, other warnings, whatever. Is there a way where you can have it be a part of the post-play recap? As in, I've seen all of these warnings, and then maybe a counter or something things like that.
Yes. So we actually, some of the other things that I didn't talk about in here, but there were some things that we changed about actually the way that warnings work in Ansible in general. They are actually now, they're visible to the callback. They're always visible to the callbacks. So it used to be that there were places in large parts of the code base, actually, other than like modules, where actions and internals and everything would just basically write a warning directly to the display. And so we had no way to correlate that to like what caused this warning or what task was running when this warning happened. One of the things that we do now is there's a warning capture context that surrounds, whenever a task is running, there's a warning capture context that we built that surrounds that like any warnings that are written to the display are also captured and correlated directly to that task. They're part of the task result. So the callbacks now have much more consistent handling of all that stuff. They're sent directly to the callbacks. So it's possible because what we can now do is like, we can just accumulate the warnings. The callback, it's completely up to the callback to decide how the warning is displayed. So because we intercept all those things, when there's a task context active or when there's something like that we can correlate that way. So yes, it is absolutely possible. And even now, if you wanted to just like subclass default, and like there's one method you would override called handle errors and warnings, I think. If you override that and you change that behavior to like, just instead of printing the warning, you could just squirrel it away and then put it in the play recap. It'd be like, it'd be like a few lines of code to do if you wanted to do that yourself. And, there are things in the next, probably within the next couple releases of Ansible, you will probably see a lot more changes to errors and warnings in particular. We've been talking about ways to do granular warning control where you can basically turn off an individual deprecation warning for anything. So everything would be able to be controlled individually or by classification, or but more than just the all deprecation warnings off, all warnings off. Obviously that's a bad plan, right? So yeah. So yes, we didn't get to it for 219, 220, but yes, it's a thing. Yeah, John.
I have a question that was sparked by his question, but has nothing to do with the, with the presentation. Is it possible, or will it be possible, if you do include tasks or include role, to register the outcome and see if any changes were made by the role anywhere? Because this is something I would really, really like to have in testing.
I wants to know if we can capture, basically like aggregate the change status through a role or include tasks or something, and to basically, so I think what you're actually looking for then is maybe even that include role would have a result.
Yes.
Like include role has no result. It's not a real thing right
Yes,
now, right?
right.
And same with like include. So absolutely possible. Like
For testing, it would be very.
I think that would be not hard at all.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm interested.
Yeah, I mean, you could hack it with a callback now,
Of
but
course,
like, but
of course.
I think it would be,
No.
especially the way those things work under the covers now. Like, we're trying to get rid of all the magic, not actions, and like, and so I think that would not be very hard to do at all. So that those things could actually have a result. They would look like a task, and the result would be the aggregate, the changed. Yeah.
Yeah, because if you do idempotency tests for roles, you want to do it twice and make sure the second time there's no change.
Yeah.
But that's difficult.
That's
to
a
do.
lot. You have to go back through all the
Molecule does
tasks
that
and
as well, by the way.
yeah.
Molecule does it as well.
Yes, but that's probably with callbacks or something. But
No, I don't know how they do that. Not just
Yeah. It should be. You're right, though. It should be. Yes.
Yes, nothing to do with the talk, but I will use this opportunity. Anyway,
Bring it.
so streaming output in Ansible.
Yeah.
And that means aberration of tail minus f,
Yeah.
or capturing standard out and standard error. There are bugs that were many moons ago, and they're rejected by the Ansible Core, I think, as a feature. Maybe I would hook it to this new register, amazing new register, so that async will go and show standard out in the real time.
So, okay, there's two parts to that. I want to make sure. The question was about how to do streaming output, but I want to clarify something. Are you talking about streaming output from individual targets, like remote target module streaming output, or are you talking about the overall, like, the controller output?
It's the first one.
Okay. Yes, we we actually yes. This is another one of those like there were a few of us, but I think it's been like 3 or 4 summers ago now that spent a good chunk of the summer building like a little skunkworks version of Ansible that did all of the things that we wanted it to do, and that was one of them. The challenge, of course, for especially for command line Ansible, is like it's the multi-dimensional problem of like how do you display when I have 10 if I'm 100 hosts running, like how do I do that? How do I display that? One of the things that I played with years and years ago was like a TUI callback that would let you go and like dig around and pick a host context, pick a task context, and like show me all this stuff. And it could have done live, but so it's yes, also a thing that it's pretty high. It's still pretty high on my list of things that I want to do, but it's a big to do it properly. There's some kind of packet-oriented changes and things that we really need to handle it. If we're going to do it correctly, we need to do it at the connection layer, and our current connection layer is not live streaming capable. And so the thing we built a few summers ago was completely the assumption was always that you have an async streamable container. So it's possible. That's not going to be probably in the next couple of releases, but yes, we want it.
I have an addendum to this one.
Okay.
If you ever use Schmuck's shell multiplexer, which is actually a Solaris tool that is ported to Linux, you can run a command on multiple machines, and you can actually say run it on once, show me the output, and then continue with the rest if you acknowledge it. Or you can pause it, you can see what is still in the queue, which machines, and so you can run something on 1,000 machines and then simply say show me the output, continue with the rest. If there is an error, stop again, let me evaluate before you continue with anything else. And this is really nice because you can also for debugging, it's really nice, but of course.
Yeah, time, so many hours in the day. Yes, it was description of the slash schmucks capabilities for doing similar kinds of things. Yes.
You were talking about tagging values earlier.
Yeah.
And that reminded me of something that I would be interested.
Yeah, it's okay. I just want to make sure.
Tagging, was wondering if there will be plans to make it accessible to end users to tag things for your own needs. And in particular, one that I would be interested is tagging variables as secrets, for example, so they're not logged.
Yeah.
That's something that I've been looking forward to for a long time.
Yeah. So the question was about tagging. I think the data tagging in general. If the data tagging features are going to be opened up and made public API, parts of them already are. Obviously, the tags that we have, now, there are public functions to both apply a tag for. Let's see, we have. Which ones did we add? I think just trust and what's the other one? There were 2 of them I think that we added support for like in 2.19. We definitely do not. I would say do not expect like make my own tags and tag my own data any way I want. Don't expect that. Like I can't imagine we would do that because it causes so many other problems. Like each tags have to be very, very carefully designed. Each tag has like new problems. And if any of you were here, or not here, but if any of you were at the Contrib Summit, I don't know, maybe 3 years ago or so, when I demoed this, sensitive data was one of the tags. When I first demoed that stuff, sensitive data was one of the tags, and that's exactly what it was for. We had to pull it from 2.19 because it was late enough as it was, and it was. Especially after the change, the security model kind of revamped that I didn't really talk about here, but when we kind of redid the trust model where it's the like no string is trusted unless it has to be explicitly marked trusted versus the 2.18 and before every string is trusted unless it's marked untrusted. So when somebody messes something up and trashes the untrusted marker, then like, oh, it's a CVE, like now it's remote code execution and own your controller time.
Yeah.
So we switched that up, and we didn't want to open ourselves up to a whole bunch of new CVEs without having a stable version of this thing, because that's basically, sensitive data is the same problem, right? When somebody messes something up with one of the strings, loses the tag, we now disclose the data and oops. So we need to, we really wanted to get that hardened. We want to get just the rest of the infrastructure good. But yes, sensitive data tag is still on the, like, we really want to do this for obvious reasons. And you would get a lot of this stuff with the same, like, you know, things that came out of a vault automatically tagged sensitive, like things that went through a module arg spec that marked something as like no log, automatically log that thing. If you return it, you know, it that stuff survives, like it goes through the module return, module results, like, so you can round trip those things all over the place, the tags float with it. So it survives across all of those things back and forth. So yeah, possible. I don't know when it's gonna happen. I don't wanna start promising things, because that one, again, it has a lot of implications, but we're excited about it. Yeah.
Regarding variable provenance,
yeah.
It's very good to see it in runtime errors, but will be also available as a debug thing. So a lot of the times we have code from customers and they use all the precedence level that there are.
Yeah. So if, I don't know, for just a show of hands here, how many people in the room are familiar with Ansible, like, or have used it? Okay, so I believe Jordan was able to get at this. I know I can do it in PyCharm. Like we have debug visualizers that I wrote for PyCharm when we were messing around with this stuff to show that stuff. Yes, it's not easily accessible, but we actually have, so there are proto-matter filters that we already have that you can, so I can show you some of that if you want to find me. We don't document them because they're not, you know, it's, I don't know. I don't know if anybody know what proto-matter is? Like, okay. There's an internal collection that's built into Ansible since 2019 called proto-matter that has little things that we use, and so like you can dig around in there, but we just, does anyone know what proto-matter is? Like, do you know the reference? It's a Star Trek thing. Yeah. I'll leave it as an exercise if you're interested. Go look in the, just go look it up. But it's something about, like, you know, what's the quote is, I actually have it in the README in the code for the proto-matter like thing, but the quote, but it's, you know, a dangerous substance that any ethical scientist in the universe has, like, disavowed, you know, its use. So. Anyway, they're very useful things, but there are some proto-matter. We have a bunch of little proto-matter filters and things that are kind of stuff we're using in our own integration tests, and like that we kind of would like to move out to public stuff at some point, but we didn't want to commit to the UX on it yet. So, but yeah, there are some proto-matter filters that will get you access to that too. So if you have Ansible console, Ansibug, any of those things, if you're able to like put a Jinja expression in somewhere, you can run it through a proto-matter filter. It'll tell you where. So. Yeah.
I love the thing about the duplication. Is it something that we can actually throw ourselves? So, for example, as a developer of a tool, I can want to point my user that variable is duplicated for that role.
Sorry, that the variable is what?
So, if for example, at some point in my role, I actually provided a variable, but now it's duplicated, I want to throw a deprecation one for the user to know that it's not using the right one.
Yes, I can't remember if we were back and forth. We actually had public filters for deprecating values yourself. I can't remember if it's been long enough. It was in, it was out, it was in, it was out, and I don't remember which way we left it. I think we left it in. So yeah, I believe there is. Yeah, you don't have to. I mean, and you can, of course, there are public. The methods for deprecating values, like if you're writing plugins, the methods are all there. Those are all public. I believe we left a filter in though too, so you can. Yeah, I think there's a filter for deprecating a value where you can give a message and a, you know, when is it going to go away kind of thing, and when someone touches it, it'll be just like these.
The same thing as the tags. It would be good for it to actually live with the variable.
It does.
So, it does.
Yeah, it's tagged on the variable itself. So, yeah. Not the name, but the actual, like, the value. So, yes. There's, yeah, depends on what you do. If there's something specific, you mentioned role things. So yeah, roles like you would have to set it on the way out. But yes, like
It's in the architect now.
what's that?
It's not in the architect.
Yes.
Role.
It is. That's what I want to say. In the argument stack, you can just say that variable is deprecated, and it will do all the deprecation non-decision for you.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? And then just curious, who's here? Who's anybody staying for Contrib Summit tomorrow, or probably some of these guys in the front? And okay, cool. Well, I'll be around tomorrow, and like I'm around for a little while longer too. If anybody has questions or whatever, but, like, thank you very much.